Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the inspiring life of Miles Franklin, the fearless Australian author who changed the way women's stories are told. Stay tuned to discover her incredible journey and lasting legacy. Early life and family background. Stella Maria Sarah Miles Franklin was born on October 14, 1879, in Talbingo, a small rural locality in New South Wales, Australia. She was raised in the Brindabella Valley near the border of New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory in a farming family. The Miles Franklin family had a strong tradition of pioneering spirit and resilience, which deeply influenced her writing and worldview. Her parents were John Maurice Franklin Miles and Lucy Blanche. They managed Brindabella, a sheep grazing property, which became a source of inspiration for Franklin's vivid descriptions of the Australian bush and rural life. Growing up in the isolated and rugged environment of the Australian outback, Franklin experienced firsthand the challenges faced by women in rural communities. She was homeschooled early on, but later attended schools in both Sydney and Melbourne. Her early education fostered a love for literature and writing. Early literary ambitions and my brilliant career. Miles Franklin demonstrated a keen interest in writing from a young age. Encouraged by her family, she wrote stories and poems throughout her childhood and teenage years. Her breakthrough came when she wrote My Brilliant Career, a semi-autobiographical novel that she began at age 16 and completed by 19. Published in 1901, My Brilliant Career chronicles the life of Sibylla Melvin, a headstrong and ambitious young woman who dreams of a life beyond the limitations imposed on her by society and gender expectations. The novel explores themes such as female independence, identity, and the tension between personal ambition and societal conformity. Its candid and pioneering depiction of a woman's struggle to define herself outside the domestic sphere resonated with readers, making it an instant classic of Australian literature. However, upon publication, Franklin was unhappy with some editorial changes made by the publisher, which led her to withhold her name from the book, instead using the male pen name Miles Franklin. The use of a male pseudonym helped protect her privacy and allowed the work to be judged on its merits without gender bias, a reflection of the era's attitudes toward female authors. After the success of My Brilliant Career, Franklin left Australia in 1906 to live abroad, initially in the United States. She became involved in progressive social movements, particularly women's rights and labor activism. In Chicago, she worked with the National Women's Trade Union League, advocating for the rights and better working conditions of female laborers. This experience deepened her commitment to social justice and feminism. In 1915, Franklin moved to London, where she became active in the Australian expatriate community, as well as feminist circles. During this period, she continued to write and published several novels and essays under various pseudonyms. Despite living abroad, Franklin maintained strong connections to Australia and wrote extensively about Australian life, culture, and landscapes. Franklin's later novels continued to explore themes of Australian identity, pioneering life, and the evolving roles of women. Some of her notable later works include Up the Country, 1928, co-written with Dymphna Cusack under the joint pseudonym Brent of Bin Bin. It depicted rural Australian life and the struggles of settlers. 10 Creeks Run, 1930, and Back to Bulbul, 1931. Sequels continuing the story of Australian pioneer families, All That Swagger, 1936. A multi-generational saga about the history and development of a pioneering Australian family, praised for its rich historical detail and epic narrative style. Pioneers on Parade, 1939. A satirical take on Australian society and politics. In her writing, Franklin showed a particular interest in celebrating Australia's rural and bush culture, emphasising the unique challenges and character of the land and its people. Her novels often portrayed strong female characters who defied traditional roles. Throughout her life, Franklin faced many personal challenges. She grappled with the constraints placed on women of her time, both socially and professionally. Her choice to use a male pseudonym reflected the difficulties female authors encountered in being taken seriously. Franklin never married, which was unusual for women of her generation, especially in rural Australia. She valued her independence and dedicated herself to her work and causes rather than traditional domestic life. Politically, she was a progressive thinker who supported women's suffrage, labour rights, and social reforms. Yet she was also critical of certain aspects of modernity, balancing her appreciation for Australia's pioneering past with concerns about rapid social change. In 1932, Franklin returned permanently to Australia, settling in Sydney. She continued writing and became a prominent figure in Australian literary and cultural circles. She supported younger writers and contributed essays and reviews to various publications. During World War II, Franklin volunteered for the Australian Red Cross and engaged in war-related relief efforts. She continued to write up until her death. Miles Franklin died on September 19, 1954, in Sydney at the age of 74. One of Franklin's most enduring legacies is the establishment of the Miles Franklin Literary Award. In her will, she left her estate to establish a literary prize dedicated to encouraging and recognising Australian writers. The award was first presented in 1957 and is given annually to a novel of the highest literary merit that presents Australian life in any of its phases. It has become one of the most prestigious and coveted literary prizes in Australia, helping to promote Australian literature nationally and internationally. Through her writing and activism, Franklin helped shape the cultural identity of Australia. She remains celebrated for her pioneering spirit, her vivid portrayal of Australian life, and her advocacy for women's independence. Miles Franklin's work paved the way for future generations of Australian writers, particularly women, to explore themes of identity, gender, and national culture. Her most famous novel, My Brilliant Career, was adapted into a successful film in 1979, starring Judy Davis, which further cemented her place in Australian cultural history. Her literary contributions are studied widely in schools and universities, and her name is synonymous with Australian literary excellence. Selected bibliography: My Brilliant Career, 1901, Some Everyday Folk and Dawn, 1909, as Brent of Bin Bin, Up the Country, 1928, as Brent of Bin Bin, 10 Creeks Run, 1930, as Brent of Bin Bin, Back to Bulbul, 1931, as Brent of Bin Bin, All That Swagger, 1936, Pioneers on Parade, 1939, My Career Goes Bung, 1946, Bring the Monkey, 1933, a comedic novel on Dearborn Street, 1943, set in Chicago. Conclusion: Miles Franklin was much more than just a novelist. She was a trailblazer for women's rights and Australian literature. Her fierce dedication to portraying Australian life authentically, her feminist ideals, and her commitment to social justice make her a significant cultural figure in Australia and beyond. Her legacy endures in the literary prize that bears her name, and in the stories that continue to inspire readers with their candid depiction of courage, ambition, and the Australian spirit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed learning about Miles Franklin and want more amazing stories from history and literature, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the community. See you in the next video.